Come on, bitch, let's go. Come on, get ready, bitches. You haven't seen nothing yet. Come on.
Valentino, Versace, Lamborghini, Bugatti. I got money to burn. I'm single and I'm naughty.
Come on.
Tiffany's, Cartier, Gucci, Armani.
Come on.
Break out your black card, boys. It's time to party.
Well, it was a crazy week for Thanksgiving. I'm sure you guys would agree. I was really happy there was no shows on Bravo this week, really, except for Salt Lake. Thank goodness, because I needed the time off. I'm not going to lie. I came down with a really bad head cold that John, my son, brought home from high school, and it hit me the hardest, of course, like Murphy's Law, on Thanksgiving Day when I had to cook our entire meal. And as you guys know from last Sunday's show, I'm on an anti-inflammatory diet, which has like changed my life in a positive way. And so I wanted to really cook this meal so that it would have no inflammation in it for me, which is time consuming and you have to do a lot of stuff from scratch. It was great though. It came out amazing. I'll tell you just a little bit in case you want to do it for Christmas or some other holiday celebration down the line that involves a turkey. But it was so hard to do sick. And I literally was like, I really want to start the show for Sunday. And I was like, as soon as I get done, I'm going to do it. And I was so racked with my cold, I just went straight to bed. And I can always tell when I'm going to get sick because I do shows and I'll screw up like a really basic fact. You know, like I don't remember what I was talking about on Tuesday, but I think it was the Miss Universe scandal, which I'm going to be doing a show about next week, which is going to blow your freaking mind because my friend was good friends with the girl who just fled Thailand because she embezzled 200 million out of there. And she's like in hiding from Thailand because she's facing criminal charges for 15 years if she was to stay there because of fraud. And then it turns out the person who she sold, you know, a big stake of Miss Universe to was a gun peddler and, you know, dealing with the cartel out of Mexico. Anyway, my girlfriend had a falling out with that girl a few years ago, but she knew all about the ins and outs of, first of all, that girl, Anne, but also how it all operated. So I'm dying to hear what she has to say, and we're recording a show next week, so that'll be out on next Sunday's show if you want more intel on that crazy thing that happened. I'm going to play you a quick clip to get you excited in case you're not into this like we are in the Patreon, because I'm dropping this part public. And I'll do that in a few seconds. But I wanted to say, I always know I'm sick because I'll do like a really amazing job on the show with great research. And then I'll do something dumb. Like just say like the guy's name wrong or, you know, say something just stupidly inaccurate. I think I called the girl who won Miss Puerto Rico instead of Miss Mexico just because I had watched a quick download someone was doing on that. And I didn't do my usual fact check because I was sick. And and then I think I corrected it later in the show. So she was like Miss Puerto Rico in the beginning and Miss Mexico by the end. Anyway, that's when you know Dana's sick, okay? Aww. And I really appreciate the grace, especially considering I have Patreons who went to Miss Universe and like were watching this mess unfold. Up front and personal. So anyway, you guys, thanks for bearing with me. I do make mistakes from time to time. No one even said anything, but you know, I always correct myself when I do. So we're going to do loads of fun things today, and we're going to keep the show kind of really interesting, I think. But we're going to keep the show sort of light just because I'm still sick and I don't have probably a 2-hour show in me today. I'll probably only have an hour and a half show. Let's get going. Loads to discuss. Let's go ahead and start by getting you excited about next week's show by me playing you this clip. This was sent to me by my friend who's coming on the show with me to give you guys a quick cliff note from someone who was involved with Miss Universe, who was one of the presenters of the show, and him recapping all the scandals that have dropped in the last few weeks because there are so many. And he does a nice little concise recap.
my name is Steve Byrne, and I was your host for the 2025 Miss Universe final. I've never been associated with something so scandal-ridden pre- and post-event, so I thought I'd put it all in context for you, and then at the very end of the video, I'll share with you my personal reason for making it. So let's start with number one, the video that started it all. Co-owner Nawat Itsawa-Grisi calls Miss Mexico a dumbhead. She threatens to walk out. Multiple delegates get up to support her. He threatens security on them. This video goes viral, okay? Which leads us to story number two. Nawat Itsawa-Grisi has a social media contest where fans can vote on their top 10 delegates. And of those top 10, they get to win a free dinner with who? Nawat Itsawa-Grisi. So Ms. Universe says this is inappropriate, unsanctioned, you gotta get rid of it. Story number three. Up to 48 and 24 hours before, multiple judges resign due to allegations of a secret committee. This is rigged. The top 30 was already predetermined. Okay, story number four. Miss Jamaica falls, hurts herself, ends up in intensive care, and I believe is still in the hospital. So much love, prayers to Miss Jamaica. Story number five. Miss Mexico is crowned Miss Universe. As soon as she leaves the arena to go to the press conference, she is greeted by boos. So this is her reign as queen is mired in controversy, conspiracy theories, etc., etc.
So the controversy is that Miss Mexico may have had a relationship with the owner of Miss Universe, who is also involved with the Mexican cartel and was much, much older than her when he had some sort of relationship with her, because she looks, in my opinion, underage. And you'll hear Steve make a shout out to Epstein Island in this, and that will land different now that I told you this.
Story number five. Multiple delegates resign in the aftermath of Miss Universe 2025. Many of them. You can look this all up, including top five finalists representing Cote d'Ivoire, Olivia Yasse, who I personally believed should have won. Story number six. Arrest warrant was issued for co-owner and Jakara Judatip for fraud. Okay? This happens right after it. Are we done? We're not done. Story number seven. Raul Rocha, one of the co-owners, one of the majority co-owners, comes out and says, all this scandal is getting a bit much. I think I may sell my shares in Miss Universe and just be done with it. That's pretty bad. Are we done? Nope. Story number eight. Raul Rocha is charged with drug, arms, and fuel trafficking by Mexico's Attorney General. Guys, I'm waiting for what happens in the next few days. It's absolutely bonkers. I wouldn't be surprised if they said Miss Universe 2026 will relocate and be broadcast live from Epstein Island. So why am I making this video? I'm making this video in the lead up to let you know my own personal scandal. I actually didn't almost make it to the taping, and I'll share that with you in the next video.
So that's Steve Byrne. He's a comedian, and he was, as you heard, the host of Miss Universe 2025. And so, he then drops another video, which I'll play you in a second before we move on. But I did want to say that one of the main things that really caught my eye about this scandal was that Raul Roca Cantu, who is the co-owner of Legacy Holding Group USA, which purchased 50% stake in 2023 of Miss Universe from JKN Global Group, which is Anne's company. Anne, by the way, is a transgender model from a media mogul family, and her name is Jacafong Jakra Jutatip, but she goes by Anne, which of course I'm going to call her because it's a lot easier than that name. She's from a very, very wealthy media family, but I think there's more to her story, which my friend is going to tell us all because she'll know the real deal. So now what shocked me though is this guy named Raul Cantu, it came out, was talking to the Mexican government about a plea deal, allegedly, because he got caught in doing all these illegal dealings with arms and all sorts of different stuff to do with the Mexican cartel. Now, the thing is, they made public that Raul was talking to the Mexican authorities about a plea deal. Okay, so the Mexican authorities know damn well by putting that out there, they're basically going to make Raul into a fish taco because the cartel don't fuck around. And what they're going to do is find his ass and they're going to shred it. And I mean quite literally. And if Anne is under his protection in any way, they could blame her too. And she could be taken out also in as dramatic a form. And I think the Mexican government knew that when they released the statement publicly that he was talking about a plea deal with with them, if that's true. So I got to say, Raul's got to be shaking in his boots because wow. First of all, doing business with the cartel. And then second of all, trying to do a plea deal and not finishing that plea deal. Let me just say this. If someone is out there doing business with the cartel, if you start to approach any authorities about some sort of plea deal, you better sign that damn plea deal. Because if it ever comes out that you're doing that, they're coming for you in the worst way you could ever imagine. So, oh, wow. Anyway, let me play the second part. And then we'll move on.
And I'll let you know, I personally had my own scandal. And I wasn't going to share it, but due to the overwhelming amount of everything going on, I thought I'd share my own personal story with you. So in the weeks leading up to Miss Universe, I wrote a ton of jokes for this. And I took it very seriously. I wrote a ton of jokes for it. I was very proud of the jokes I wrote. Now, we tape on Friday, and on Thursday, we have rehearsal. So I rehearse live on stage Thursday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. I go through the script. I go through everything. I'm having a blast. The women are all fantastic. Towards the end of the rehearsal, Nawat approaches me and says, "You need more energy. You need, when you say Peru, Miss Peru, Miss Brazil." And I said, yes, absolutely. I'll do that. But we're at rehearsal. I'm learning your script. I'm learning my script. I'm learning where to put the jokes in. I'm learning coordination with these fantastic women. So yes, I will give you my all. I promise to do a good job. He walked away. Didn't seem none too pleased. Well, I leave at 6 p.m. 7 p.m. Now this is 7 p.m. We're taping at 8 a.m. Okay, 7 p.m. He goes into production and he wants me fired. He wants me out of there. He never wanted me, is what I learned, but he certainly didn't want me because I wasn't giving the energy at rehearsal. So production fought back. Absolutely not. You can't fire the host 12 hours before the taping, right? So Nawat says, I want him gone. And you know who should replace him? Take a guess. Nawat! It's Sour Greasy wants to replace, he wants to host it, okay? So they say, absolutely not. You're not firing him. He's staying on. They win, okay? Nawat then goes through the entire script and takes out every one of my jokes. Takes them all out. Production fights, they get maybe 2 jokes back in, but otherwise Nawat took everything out. So that was a bit devastating, but that's not even the worst part. Ready? Nawat added 2 lines, okay? Here's line number 1. I had to thank Nawat for bringing us all to Thailand. So I had to make sure the audience applauded for him. And then, he added this line. He wrote this himself. I had to say, Nawat, you truly are amazing. So the audience had to applaud. I had to say that. And I'll tell you, in the aftermath of all this, almost getting fired, having to say those things, who would do that? Only a true dumbhead.
Couldn't say it better myself. Well, Nawat, so you guys know, was implicated in several similar scandals before this erupted. He was limited, in air quotes, to his interaction with Miss Universe after this all occurred with Miss Mexico, but he was still involved. The tabloids reported that he got fired. He didn't. He was just limited in his role. And so obviously you hear from this story that, he was still really being obnoxious. Well, Nawat is like a Thai entertainment guy. You wouldn't know him, but he's been involved in the Miss Universe pageants for years. And listen to this. These are other scandals where he was horrific to the pageant contestants, just so everybody doesn't think this is an isolated event. In 2016, Nawat was reported by Miss Iceland, 2015, to have said that she's too fat and needed to lose weight prior to the finals of Miss Grand International 2016, held in Las Vegas on October 25th, 2016, eventually dropping out of the pageant before the coronation due to the controversy. In a statement, Nawat said they gave similar advice to other contestants who asked what they should do to improve in order to win. In 2022, Nawat also publicly stated in a live stream that Miss Vietnam had too long a torso and too short a legs. As to the reason why Miss Vietnam failed to make top 10 in Miss Grand International 2022, enraging the Vietnamese beauty fans. Then then in 2025, Nawat publicly body shamed Rachel Gupta, the winner of Miss Grand International 2024, through an Instagram post after she announced her decision to step down from her role. He shared 2 images of Rachel labeled before and after, insinuating she had undergone cosmetic surgery. He also posted another photo accusing her of altering her appearance surgically. The Indian pageant and glamour responding, stating there should be no place for someone like him in an organization such as Miss Universe. It should be a platform for empowerment, not harassment. And you guys know about Miss Mexico, Fatima Bosch, and what happened with her, although she somehow got to win and didn't deserve it. So sounds like we have another gout DICK sucker in the house. We'll get to that later in the Salt Lake City recap. Anyway, all right. So that's all I have to say about that. I hope you tune in for next week's show because it's going to be a doozy. And like I said, this person has the intel that not a lot of people have. And she's got the balls to say it, which I love about her. And we haven't collabed in a long time and she's hilarious. If you know, you know. All right. So now I'm going to quickly tell you how to make a non-inflammatory turkey because I think everybody's going to find this interesting, even people not doing what I talked about last week. But first and foremost, if you guys can get your hands on an Amish turkey. Amish turkeys have no pre-briming, which means they're soaked in salt, no injections with like butter and other additives to make them taste better. They don't have antibiotics and food fed to them to make them extra fatty, which is what ends up showing itself on your gravy when the juices come off the bird, right? And they're actually the best tasting turkeys you can get. And they're usually priced on par with like grocery store turkeys. Now, these turkeys are not easy to find. I had to go to my grocery store, which is actually a group of farmers that sell their products in a grocery environment. And they have this really pure food they sell near my house. And they could get the Amish turkeys. But boy, you should source these suckers because it's the best tasting turkey and it has no yucky stuff in it. And the reason the turkeys run a little smaller is because they're fed normal food. Because turkeys are, they're normal size when they eat normal turkey food. What can I tell you? So here's the thing. You get this turkey and you're right off the gate starting better than everybody else. Okay, in terms of non-inflammation and not like feeling gross after. Then you do your turkey the same way you normally would do in the oven. Some people do it slow cooked 325. Other people do, almost 375 because they want a faster cook and you flip it halfway through. Even though some people don't flip it because they don't want the fat from the dark meat to drip into the white meat because it could put like unhealthy drippings in the white meat. I think with the Amish turkey, you're okay because I'm going to tell you why in a minute. So you flip it over, that way your bird gets kind of cooked all around and it's got that brown all over it. And you don't stuff the stuffing because you can't have stuffing for inflammation. You have to skip that. So what do you stick in the bird? You stick fresh sage, fresh thyme, fresh rosemary, 2 lemons that you slice in half and drip the lemon juice in the inside of the bird, some garlic cloves, and last but not least, an onion, like a sweet onion or yellow onion that you chop in 4 quarters and shove inside the bird without its wrapper, the papery part of the onion. Okay. And you shove that in there and you tie it shut after in that cavity. And you take out all the stuff, obviously, in there, the giblets and intestines and whatever else they shove in there that you want to use for your soup or whatever. So then you cover the turkey in virgin olive oil and you can do light salt. And I mean really light. Okay, on the outside, just because it's a holiday. You shouldn't use any salt normally, but for the holiday you could. Okay, just a little bit. And then you can use other seasoning if you want, garlic powder. People have their different seasoning they put on the outside of the bird. As long as it's not more salt or have the word salt in it, you're good. Then you cook your bird however long per pound that you do. When you take the bird out, what you'll notice with an Amish turkey is there's only about maybe 1.5 cups of juice underneath the bird. And that's because it's not a fatty bird, which is actually a good thing. And now I'm going to tell you why. So I have this awesome fat remover device where I put my liquid into it and wait 2 minutes and the fat rises to the top, and then you press a button and only the good juice comes out and the fat sits in the rest of it and doesn't contaminate the good juice, okay? Well, normally when I do this, it has like a bunch of fat in the container. Well, when I switched over to an Amish turkey, there was almost no fat. It was like shocking. And so I was like, oh my gosh. So I almost didn't even need my fat remover device because there was no fat in the juice from the bird. Well, what did that tell me? Oh my God, so much, right? Because my normal turkey fat is a ton. So then I took the juice and I made non-inflammatory gravy. The way you do that is you use your bouillon cubes low sodium, because the key is to get the sodium content as low as possible in your chicken bouillons. Now, I use RHOBH low sodium. And some people need 3 packets for their gravy, but if you're trying to do, like I said, a healthier way, it really doesn't impact the taste that much to do 2. If you're scared it won't be tasty enough for you, then do 3. But again, keep it to the low sodium. And then instead of cornstarch, I use potato starch. And the reason I do, because it is kind of inflammatory. So you want to limit your potato starch to like say you're doing your normal content of water, whatever that is. You try to do 1.5 tablespoons of it. Definitely don't go over 2. It'll be too thick anyway, your gravy, because that's what makes gravy thick or thin. So here's why I use potato starch now over cornstarch. Because potato starch, when it's cooked and cooled, can form a more resistant starch than cornstarch. And resistant starches act more like fiber. So they slightly help your blood sugar control and gut health better than cornstarch. It's also less processed than cornstarch. However, they're both high glycemic. So, you want to lay low on that. Don't go too hard. If you could have your gravy less thick, then go for it. I mean, we put 2 tablespoons in and our gravy was almost too thick. I could have done 1.5 for sure. Now I asked John, do you want me to add salt to the gravy? And he tried it and he's like, Mom, it doesn't need it. It didn't need it after what we did. So that was kind of cool. So that's as anti-inflammatory as you can get on that basic. And then the rest of it, what I can tell you is only eat the breast meat. Give the dark meat to the rest of the family. And stick to roasting potatoes, squash, vegetables, tomatoes, all of that. That is all anti-inflammatory. And you can still use the herbs I told you guys before: oregano, sage, garlic powder, onion powder, just nothing with salt in it. No onion salt, no garlic salt, none of that. Obviously, by doing roasting veggies, you're not getting the cream and all that other stuff that's horrific. But you can still use your cinnamon Ceylon, which is the one that doesn't have lead in it. And yes, I do mean the deadly lead, because they found out cinnamon, regular ground cinnamon, has lead in it, like the kind that you don't want to have in your house from the 1950s. More things we're ingesting that we have no idea about. But yeah, so if you really do that, I mean, you're really not going to get the food hangover. And it's highly nutritious, and you won't get the sodium, dehydration, and water retention. All of that goes way down. You won't want to eat as much because you'll fill up faster because your food's more nutritious. So there it is if you want to do it. You guys seem to really like that segment on last week's show where I went into detail of what you can and cannot do, broadly speaking, when you're trying to do anti-inflammatory diet. For those of you that didn't hear that part of last week's show, it is really good. I got a lot of people reaching out to me after, really loving it. That's why I decided to include this week. Also, if you didn't go in the Dishing Drama Dana chat and see the 2 pictures I put up in there side by side of me, only 3 pounds apart, to show the difference in my body from inflammation. I was thin with inflammation to Dana thin without inflammation. And it's so dramatic. People were like, what? And I was like, this is what I'm trying to tell you. It has nothing to do with weight loss. It has everything to do with giving your organs a prolonged break from all the toxic fat and salt and sodium and sugar and artificial flavoring and chemicals that we're constantly pumping in it, which are clogging our arteries and affecting our liver and hurting our heart and giving us brain fog and laying the groundwork for cancer. It's giving our body a break from all of that so that it can start to regenerate. And in the process of you giving this break to your organs, magical things happen that we didn't think possible. Like, for me, I was already at my lowest weight. For me, it was my waist dropped 3.5 inches after only doing this for 2 weeks. That's not weight loss. That's swelling. Anyway, I'm not going to repeat it because I've said it so many times, but you guys go listen to last week's show. All right, let's move on. I want to talk about Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So last week I said I didn't understand how Jen Shah from Real Housewives of Salt Lake City got her prison sentence cut down to like 40% of her 6.5 years or whatever she was going to have to be in jail. And I was like, I've never heard that. The most I heard, I think, was 15 or 20%. And so we do have a patron who works in the criminal justice system and specifically knows all about the ways that people can get this type of enhancement once you're in the prison system and you're out of the justice system, because they're kind of separate beasts. So I asked her to educate this to us. And I'll tell you why. Because if you go through any kind of criminal incident ever in your life and you go to your criminal attorney, he, even if you have $500,000 that you plunk down in front of him, cannot tell you the information that this patron told me. It is so valuable because the only way you're going to find out this information is if you find yourself in a federal prison. Okay? And then you better hope that they explain it to you. And it depends probably on who you are, if they do. So here it is for your family, friends that have been touched by the prison system. Let's get into how you can get your sentence down by half. A PSA sponsored by Jen Shah.
The only thing I'm guilty of is being Shah-mazing.
So the patron said, right off entering the prison, you get 15% off your sentence called good time. This can be removed, however, if you get a shot or get in trouble. It's up to the prison's discretion. Okay, next is depending on your sentence that is on paper, you also get up to 1 year in the halfway house. Usually it is people that have a 10-year plus sentence will get the full year. But a 5, 6, or 7 year sentence will still get up to 6 months. To be clear, halfway house time is still doing time, but better because you are not behind the gates. But you still have to adhere to strict rules, work a job, and if you violate in any way, you are sent back to prison. Number 3, RDAP. Residential Drug Abuse Program also gives you 1 year off your sentence time. Certain crimes are not allowed to take it. However, I'm assuming Jen could. So I found that interesting. I wanted to look into more of what was required. So in order to get into the RDAP program, a drug abuse program coordinator in the prison has to approve you and your application to join. You have to have 24 months that you're still serving in order to qualify. You have to have a documented, verifiable substance abuse disorder within the 12-month period before the prisoner's arrest for their current offense that they can prove and is in their documentation. And they have to sign a form that requires them to say they're going to do everything, like guarantee they're going to do everything in advance that's required by this program. So you have to not have any cognitive or learning impairments that make it so you can't properly participate and fulfill your duties under this program. You also have to speak English. Also, if you're not eligible for a halfway house, you are not eligible for the RDAP program. Now here, interestingly enough, and kind of tying it into some of the politics that are going around right now, people who cannot participate in this program are ICE or INS detainees because they're in the country illegally, pretrial inmates, or state inmates or military inmates. Now, if at any point you don't complete it, they can renege some of the benefits that you were getting. And there's 3 phases to the RDAP program, which I'm not going to get into, but it's very complicated, as you can see. Boy, good thing people have time on their hands in prison because it's not easy. And then the patron goes on to say, number 4, lastly, and the biggest, is the First Step Act. It was passed in 2018. It's gone through many versions since. If the inmate's crime is not omitted, they start earning credits at 10 days off per 30 of their sentence by taking approved courses and work UniCore. As time progresses, that 10 days off becomes 15 days and the snowball starts rolling. The max earned ability is 365 days. That said, however, you can quickly see that with 1 year off of FSA plus 6 months HWH plus 1 year RDAP and the initial GTC time, you can take off quite a bit of time. But you can't qualify for this program that she just mentioned was the really good one if you've done any kind of bank robbery, treason, if you've threatened a president, if you're into gang violence, if you're a hacker and you've done something to attack computer systems, anything related to congressional, cabinet, or Supreme Court assassinations, drive-by shootings, any people relating to the destruction of aircraft or motor vehicle facilities. It's funny how they prioritize. These are people who can't do it. Now, the patron gives me her professional take as a person who understands the prison system at the federal level, and she wants to tell us what she thinks happened to Jen Shah. She said she probably qualified for all available courses and programs and the extended halfway time. She will either go to the halfway house or skip right past to home confinement. This is where it gets really gray, because it's my personal opinion the HWH game is somewhat of a racket. For one, it's bodies in and out, and the quicker that happens, the more they get paid. I've seen people get 1 year in the HWH, and they are in and out in 4 weeks. Also, the entire point of HWH is to prepare an inmate for reentry to the world, and some of these people have done 15 to 20 years in and truly need this time to acclimate properly. If Jen got the extended HWH, she may do a quick blip there and the rest on home confinement, which involves a ankle monitor, drug testing, and lots of hoops to jump through. If she goes to the HWH, I do not think she will be there long. Texas does not have enough of them, and a lot are getting sent to Oklahoma. There's also, quote, supervised release, which is how much time after your sentence time is up that you still have to check in with a probation officer. And if you violate, you go back in, i.e. you can't associate with people that are known felons or do anything unscrupulous. I'm guessing hers would be around 24 months. Her judgment and sentencing paperwork would indicate this. So all in all, you guys, just to remind you, Jen was sentenced to 78 months in prison. She only served 34 months. So instead of 6.5 years, she did 2 years and 10 months. She has 5 years of supervised release. I have to imagine they're going to home confine her for some more time. I mean, it would be incredible if not. I think she's served very little here. 2 years and 10 months of a 6.5 year sentence. I mean, I have to imagine they're going to ankle bracelet her at least for a period of time. Or maybe she'll go to a halfway house for a year and then do ankle bracelet or what. But anyway, whenever they eventually get her off the ankle bracelet or get her out of the halfway house and she's legit home and free, then she'll go on supervised release. And then she'll have to follow specific terms that were given to her. She'll have to pay a specific amount of restitution each month. She'll have a bunch of rules she has to follow. They're going to do a constant audit on her and her related parties, like her husband, even her kids' accounts, if they're not over 18, and they'll be all in her business for the next 5 years. And they generally don't lower that. But anyway, since she's coming out December 10th in some capacity, I wanted to make sure we covered this today. In other news, Mary Cosby's son, Robert Cosby, and his wife have filed for divorce. She was the instigator of it weeks after he got arrested for violating his restraining order. So that relationship is finally kaput. Robert apologized through his legal team to the court. He said he didn't want to accept that his relationship with his wife was over, and he kept attempting to reconcile with her. And he has now recognized, with obviously how dramatic things became, that his wife does not want anything further to do with him, and he is not going to make any further attempts to try to be with her. He's still in jail, and I think probably Mary's thinking about leaving him there because of the fact that maybe she thinks that'll keep him off drugs. But I told you guys that there's more drugs in prison than there are out. So sadly, you lose your freedom, but you get a lot of drugs. But if you're caught, you get more prison time. So not really worth the risk. So then a really strange TikTok came out, which I recorded, and I saw you guys in the Patreon chat got it too. I found it before you guys posted it in there, and I was going to put it in the show, and then I saw you guys put it in. I'm like, God, you're all so good. I love it. Anyway, Seth Marks, unfortunately, has a new little scandal that erupted on TikTok to do with infidelity. Some people don't think this is true. I really want to caveat that. She didn't put any receipts, but she said that she saw something really unusual with Seth's picture. It could have been a joke. It could have also been one of the cast members trying to create a storyline for next season, or, you know, kind of like what they did this season with Meredith Marks, trying to make it like Seth's cheating. Let me play it for you.
Little tea. So I'm in my local Are We Dating the Same Guy group, and guess who popped up on my newsfeed this morning for that group? Seth Marks, husband of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Meredith Marks. Her husband's picture popped up from being in that group for Columbus, and it said, it was by an anonymous member that said, is anyone locally seeing this man? Maybe it was Brittany.
So that's Lauren from Columbus who dropped that on her TikTok. So she's not in a Bravo account, just random. But he's not in Columbus, Ohio anymore, so that's kind of weird. But maybe it was an old thing that happened and she just decided to talk about it now. But she certainly did not show receipts. Can someone please explain to me what it means to be in a group chat where you're trying to figure out if you're dating the same guys? And why is that such a big problem in Columbus, Ohio? I really need to understand this. Is this tying back to Epstein again and Les Wexner? Please, somebody let me know. Meanwhile, Brittany Bateman has moved on. She's dating, I guess, air quotes, dating a guy named Aaron Torriante. He lives in Salt Lake. He's the senior vice president of tax at Cottonwood Residential. Went to Brigham Young University, so he's Mormon, and he's in that scene for Brittany, and he does all right. I don't think he's, super rich, but he's successful for sure. And he's good looking, so good for her. I hope she's dating him. Her and Jared Osmond are officially friends, per Brittany, and we'll have to see if that sticks. Because she was at a Christmas party with him in the last few days, looking like she's dating him again. Ew. Poor Olivia Bateman has to continue being tortured by her mother. How do we know this? Because Olivia Bateman said that she doesn't like Jared. I don't know why that would even surprise anyone or why they even bothered saying that, but there it was. I was surprised to see in the tabloids Angie Harrington from Real Housewives of Salt Lake City a few years ago being brought up in regards to her husband, ex-NFLer Brett. Every time I've ever talked to Angie about Brett, she's never said anything negative about him. So I do feel like the interpretation of the police report or whatever that everybody's going off of that was filed when he smashed her cell phone as, he was leaving because he was pissed that she was talking to somebody. I'm not sure how true it all is. I feel like it might be embellished. And I also feel like Angie would have said to me if she thought bad things of Brett or if there had been some massive hurtful experience with him. I think probably wasn't peachy when she was getting a divorce. What is at the end of a relationship? And Brett is Mormon. And in the settlement, if the way the tabloids reported on it, it was true, had the most controlling child support payment situation over Angie Harrington I have ever seen. I mean, really, truly. But I will say this, Angie has only spoken highly of him And I know that she loves more than anything her children that she had with Brett. And it can't be nice for them to read these headlines. And no matter what negativity existed in their past, which I don't think was as extreme as they're making it sound in the tabloids. So I think it was really unfair, this. And obviously this comes out of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives show having to kind of get dirtier and dirtier to keep people engaged. But I didn't like that they had to throw in there that these text messages allegedly were with another guy as he smashes her cell phone and leaves, and then she files for divorce. I mean, it kind of dragged Angie unnecessarily in this Brett's scandal, which I thought that was really unfair of the tabloids to do. So I thought I would say something about it today on the show. And anyway, it's way more interesting to talk about Brett's older sister, Shawn, who married Larry King. She was married to him from 1997 to 2019. Very freaky. We need to think about that. That's more important than all this. And then Demi also mentioned in February of 2023 in a TikTok that Brett actually had a second wife that was between Angie Harrington and Demi, if you're into Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And that one only lasted 5 or 6 months. Listen to Demi talk about it.
Get ready with me while I tell you the long overdue story of how my husband and I met. There's not necessarily a reason that I've waited this long to make this video, but there has been a lot of controversy around our relationship and the fact that we got into a relationship very quickly after my divorce and that we had pretty significant age gap and that he'd been married a couple times before me. I'll get into all of that in another video. For now, let's just focus on how we met. So if you don't know, my husband and I are 16 years apart. And I knew him through a family friend growing up, but he was so much older than me. And so, like, when I was 9 years old, he was married to his first wife and having babies. And I honestly don't think we ever met or crossed paths, which is so insane because the family friend that I knew him through was one of my best friends growing up, and I was over there all the time and he was over there all the time, but we somehow always just like missed each other, or maybe we just didn't realize because of the huge age gap and he wasn't worried about a little 9-year-old running around. Needless to say, I was very aware of his existence. I thought he was just like so cute, like an innocent little girl crush. My family friend's dad was really close to Brett at the time because he played football for university out here, BYU, and he was the quarterback. Because of this, obviously they would watch all of his games and I heard his name a lot growing up. Fast forward to when I'm 18 years old, I see him follow me on Instagram, and I'm currently dating my ex-husband, but we're on a break, and I was just kind of like starstruck because I always had a little crush on him and heard about him, and he was just like the star of our hometown. Side note, his family was also like a really big deal. His dad worked at Capitol Records with like tons of A-list celebrities, and his sister was married to Larry King. Him and his family were just kind of the talk of the town. Obviously, being kind of a big deal in a small town, you attract haters, and there was quite the interesting rumors going around about this man. I'm struggling. Needless to say, I wrote him off as a bad boy and just kind of continued my life. Ended up marrying my ex-husband and then never talked to him or interacted with him. I don't think we had even had one correspondence ever until we finally reconnected. So my husband gets divorced and then like 6 years later marries this other girl, and that lasts about 5 or 6 months. They get divorced. Just found out I was pregnant with Maud. My ex-husband had run into Brett a few times at the gym and they had talked business. I think at this point I had maybe talked to Brett one time at the gym with Blake. Things are going well with my ex-husband. We're excited that we're gonna have a baby. Fast forward to having Maud and then dealing with postpartum depression and really bad anxiety and just all that comes with being a new mom. And it absolutely rocked my world and my ex-husband and I's marriage. I'll do a whole video on that another time. My ex and I are silently struggling and dealing with potentially getting divorced. and we run into Brett at the gym, and my husband goes up to him and is talking to him about some business stuff, and Brett had a connection with a modeling agency and was trying to get Maud into do some like baby modeling. They're talking about that, and I come up and I ask Brett what his status was with like relationships. Was he dating anyone? What's going on? He tells us that he's single, and I suggest that he go on The Bachelorette. He basically says, over my dead body, my ex-husband and I go home that night and we anonymously submit him to The Bachelorette. A few days later, he got a call saying that they wanted to meet with him and potentially cast him for Claire's season of The Bachelorette. He calls Blake freaking out because he knew that it was us, and we pushed for him to go. We thought it would be a really good opportunity.
For the full scoop, join the Dishing Drama Dana Patreon. The link is in this audio description. It's only $6 a month, and you'll get the best information and tea about the things you care about, and even the things you don't know you care about. What are you waiting for?